Leslie Seppinni.
I started at the age of 2 here in New York in a hotel, not quite as extravagant as this, the Hotel Aberdeen, a rundown hotel, rat-infested hotel, in which my mother had been claimed an unfit mother and my father went to jail to Sing Sing. I was then swept away to foster care and spent several years there. My father was black, my mother was white. Yes, I am the whitest looking black person you have ever seen. I decided at the age of 9 that I would not be defined by my circumstances. I would be defined by my dream.
Your name is?
Trixie.
Trixie? That's an interesting name.
Well, it's actually not my given name. I invented that name.
What made you invent yours?
I kind of created my own superhero in order to compensate for really horrible shyness when I was a child.
Have any ladies in the time you've been here, if you're burying your head in a magazine, do they ever come up and try to like hit on you? Or what about the men? Even the men?
Not yet that I've noticed, but I tend to be so oblivious.
Like you're feeling kind of like not at your best? And when a male hunter is not at their best, it's a little harder to feel committed to finding someone?
That's a good question. I like that question because you're buried under debt and stress and the refi. It's hard to feel like I know what I'm doing with my life.
What does Trixie do that the real you doesn't do?
It's kind of like good girl, bad girl.
Would you marry a younger man?
I have. My last husband was about 23 years my junior, and I'm unabashed. It's like, you know, I am what I am. If I'm horny, I'm horny, and I'm not going to be shy about it.
Many people are saying that this case rests on the medical evidence, and I think this case rests on far more than that this is a case about humanity and the treatment of people who have addiction.
I thought you were going to say he was working through his grief.
Working through his grief, my ass. Her voice was volcanic. It ignited a nation. But it was also volcanic in that it burned her as a person because she couldn't find balance.
Can I get a shout out for New York? Woo! New York! Okay, you have any boyfriends?
Yes.
Excuse me?
He's right there.
Okay, how old is your boyfriend?
14.
And how old are you?
18.
Uh-huh. You using protection? Let me ask you, if there was an area of your life, because you've been successful in your financial life, it sounds like you've been successful raising your children.
Well,
anyone on drugs or?
I do. I lost a son to the disease of addiction. It was one of the slumps for me. That was one of the times when I used that excuse for a lot of years. It was a suicide death, and that's really difficult for a parent, and I did not know how to get past that until I got to acceptance.
Cindy herself is a pathological liar.
Wait. Now, listen. I'm okay with saying Top Mom is a pathological liar because she's proven that.
There is a pattern here that goes beyond enabling, where this woman's ego is so fragile that the mere thought that her daughter committed this act would shatter her.
Okay, Dr. Seppinni, you're right, and I'm wrong on that.
Excuse-free living means learning how to manage your emotions. It means learning how to set good boundaries and communicate effectively. It means asking yourself, what would you replace the drama with if you were not focused on the negativity of your life, or the job you just lost, or the divorce you just had, or the weight that you have that you feel prevents you from moving forward in your career? What would you do with all that mental energy to have the life that you want, to contribute the way you want, and to die well?
I talked to a survivor of sex abuse in my time here at Penn State. He said the child in me was murdered that day.
It's just that pain, that loneliness of getting through it for the rest of your life never goes away.
You know, Leslie, as you're speaking, I can see you're in tears. It's hard to verbalize.
I'm so grateful.
My excuse is that I'm always late for things, so it's kind of self-sabotage type of thing because it's my vice, and I don't know mean, I just started a job and I'm still late to work every single day. Go ahead, Leslie.
Do you really not know that you're supposed to be on time? Really? I mean, let's really be honest. Every time you do that, you're basically saying, fuck you. When you show up consistently late, that's a fuck you. Your excuse is that you don't want adult responsibility. That's the problem. In your heart, after learning what you've learned about resiliency, how would you describe resiliency?
You become resilient when you realize that you need to lock hands with somebody next to you, and you need to take care of whoever's next to you. And you're gonna make mistakes, and you're gonna think that you have absolutely the best answer to the problem and this is the way you should go, and you're gonna realize that that's not so. You're gonna change course, but you never forget who you're holding hands with. Because there's a world out there that cares about us. We didn't have to do it by ourselves anymore, because suddenly those people we were holding hands with stretched all across the world. That's what I would tell people. Don't forget. There's a community out there, and they're good people, and they're going to take care of you.
You've never met anyone who grew up in difficult circumstances that moved out of the neighborhood or got to go to college and get a good job, or not one of you knows somebody? Okay. Well, then it's very important that I meet you and I talk to you. What would you say to the men and women who have done some atrocious things during this time and acted out of a lack of character?
Those men and women from the Danziger clearly betrayed the men and women of NOPD and every man and woman who wears a uniform, the citizens of New Orleans and this country. And they should suffer the consequences. I disagree with the deals that are being cut. Because based on the information, they should go to jail for a very, very long time.
As was discussed before, faith can play
Larry,
a role. I mean, that's important to know. It's not like jobs, payrolls, salaries, bonuses is not the only thing in the world.
Larry, listen, I am not saying that we are victims. I think people should try to live an excuse-free life. I believe that this is a time to get back to family matters. That means coming home, having dinner with your family, and also rephrasing what's going on in the economy as something positive. In other words, come home, tell your children, look, we're going on a new journey. This is a new adventure.
You know the arduous task it is here for the male gender to date a woman. Now, you're also well aware it's not as difficult to date in other countries.
Really? So do you import them without a visa and then send them back when you're done?
Been together about a year and a half.
Yeah. A year and a half, like actually as a couple, like committed, or like dating?
Been living together for about a year.
How many women tell you that you're full of shit right away?
It's not right away.
It's like what, after like 30 seconds
After
to 60
they
seconds?
do their investigation.
We haven't had sex in a while. We started having sex, and now we're like, well, I kind of want to wait till we get married.
So how long has it been since you've had sex?
Like 4 months or something.
Yeah. So what does no sex mean?
That's a good question.
P and the G.
Oh, the P and the G.
That's a good yeah.
So the 69 is okay.
For those of you who are telling yourself I had the perfect childhood, nothing ever happened to me, and as she called it, I haven't had an Oprah moment. Clearly 3 marriages is an Oprah moment. Okay. So thank you so much for Pamela. Let's say thank you to Pamela. Right? So here's the thing. Pamela is pissed. So how many of you, if you realistically think about your story, just hearing what she had to say, she feels she grew up in an ideal situation, and then as we start talking to her,
We unravel the story and we find out there's a lot more there. She's a caretaker. And then she comes from a place of fear, which is control. So she comes out locked and ready to go like a gunfighter. Bang, bang, right? This one, she's the caretaker. Let me show you what you're doing wrong. So they have very different ways of dealing with anger. But with you, you're the one that I'm most concerned about. Focus more on realizing that whatever someone is doing, they don't just do it to you. They do it to everybody.
Then why won't you talk to us? Because we're grieving.
But I think what's really crucial in this case is the word grieving. That this mother keeps saying the word grieving. Now, I don't know if she's being media coached, but no mother who's looking for their child uses the word grieving unless they know their child is dead. And that is very striking to me. The beginning of real evil is they want people to know, they wanted the police chief to know and the principal to know that after they did this, how stupid they were. They want to be famous. They feel rejected. So if they weren't checking on Ayla, why weren't they checking on the other baby in the same room? Good question. But this is what abusers do. They isolate and they alienate family members so that they won't discuss the abuse. They won't tell them what's going on at home. There's a disconnection, a mistrust they create in their children, so their children won't seek out help.
It's brainwashing. It's brainwashing. Of sorts, yeah.
Let me just tell you, somebody who was a foster care child, this case disgusts me. I mean, absolutely sickens me, because now what this child is relegated to is a life of being bounced around within foster care, because we already know Child Protective Services has trouble doing their job. So if anybody out there, I beg you, if you're a good family, step forward and claim this kid.
Therefore, if he's going to die, they must die because they are connections.
They're an object for him.
They're just an object. And they're part of him. They're like his hands.
Remember, the kids are also an extension of his deceased wife. And so that's another layer that he thought he was going to get away from. He never anticipated this custody battle. I guarantee you, he did not plan for this. And he thought he got away with the perfect murder.
You try to start fresh every day?
Yes.
Okay, I want everyone to hear that's a definite excuse-free living philosophy, living in the moment and starting fresh every day. How did you come up with such a positive attitude?
I read maybe 10 to 12 books a month.
What would you say to those kids who say, oh, I'm just going to give up, I don't feel like doing it, it's too much work?
Henry Ford, one of the richest men in America, 6th grade education, so that's self-explanatory. Ray Kroc, 59 years old, started the McDonald's chain. I mean, it's up to you. Red Fox, 58 years old, made it big in Hollywood. So I just say to just fight the good fight and keep on keeping on with the keep on.